My name is Veronica. I am from Tomball, Texas, which is just north of Houston. I've been married to my husband, Jason, for 18 and a half years, and we've got 4 kids, 3 girls and 1 boy, ranging in age from 5 to, well, she'll be 15 on Saturday.
Wow, so you have 2 teenagers in the house, just the one, or you have some more coming through?
Just the one so far. My son is 8, my third daughter is 6, and then my baby just turned 5 last week.
Well, the baby's 5.
Yeah.
So does that mean you'll be doing Focus on 5s this year, or is it too soon?
We started her in the beginnings this year. She's kind of been following along with her big sister, but she's too young to be really right on track with her. So we did it this year just for fun. And I'm still kind of debating. I'm looking at the Focus on 5s. I really want to do that with her because that's kind of where she is. She's not reading really well. And so I think it would be a really good fit for her. So yeah, that's kind of the plan.
Yeah, an extra time in homeschool, especially when it comes to reading and phonics and those sorts of things. So, well, that's great. Well, we're so glad that you're part of our consultant team, and you will probably recognize Veronica's name from the different groups, our national group. And if you haven't heard, we're having a Facebook party, or I should say an online party, coming up in April. And you'll see, in fact, in the next day or so, workshop tomorrow. You're going to see a workshop that Veronica is going to do, and also her husband is going to be interacting with us as well. So we're going to get homeschool dad's point of view, and you might be wondering, why are we taking the time to do things like this? And part of it is we're missing you at conventions. We were going to be in Waco, and you and I are both going to be in Waco, so I'm going to miss seeing you there in person. So we do get the benefit of seeing each other online, but we miss not only our consultants, but we miss our customers. We miss the workshops. You were going to do some workshops at different conventions, and so was I. And so we're prepared to be a blessing and to encourage, and also to be encouraged. And we don't want to waste this time while we're indoors by not doing that. So we're going online to do that. And Lord willing, will be a blessing as people watch live today and then go back and watch later. So thank you, Veronica, for agreeing to be interviewed and to do your workshop tomorrow. So why don't you tell us very briefly about your workshop tomorrow, so that way people can, if they've not signed up for the party, do that so they can get in on that workshop. And then we'll chat about some other things as well.
Well, the workshop is one that I was planning on doing in St. Charles at the Great Homeschool Convention there, and it's called Through the Lens of Scripture, and we're going to just talk about the importance of a biblical worldview.
And that's something that we're all at Homeworks and BJU Press very much motivated by, and for us to, I know for our Homeworks consultants particularly, to be able to talk to other parents. It isn't just about the materials and about homeschooling, but it's really an opportunity to share the Lord and to share how to raise your children in a godly academic environment. And so thankfully we have those resources that we can share with people. So I'm sure it's going to be great, and I'm sure everyone will be blessed by that. So why don't you tell us, first of all, how you came to homeschool, because obviously it is part of your life. Every time I see you on camera, I see your I see your handwriting cards. So this is not.
Yes, this is our schoolroom.
This is your life.
Yes, this is my life.
How you came to homeschooling, and then also how you found out about BJU Press Homeschool and what you do with interaction with BJU Press Homeschool.
Well, funny thing is, I grew up with a lot of friends that were homeschooled, loved them dearly, loved their families, but I always said I would never homeschool my kids. And, you know, one of the things that God has been teaching me repeatedly over many, many years is never say never to him. So yeah, we started homeschooling our daughter in kindergarten, our oldest, and never stopped. I mean, we just fell in love with it. And so my degree is in Christian education, so I wanted to teach, but when we had her, I didn't really want her going. She was an only child for 7 years. So the idea of sending her away was kind of like, no, I could teach kindergarten. I could do that. You know, I trained to do this. And then when our son came along, there was such a big age gap. I didn't want them to miss out on knowing each other. So one of the reasons among many was just simply family relationships. And my husband's a pastor, so his schedule can be a little odd. And I didn't want them home when he's not and him home when they're not. And so it just really has helped us to maintain good, close relationships. BJU Press was really it was my top choice until I started listening to a lot of other people that said, no, you should do it this way. This method is better. This curriculum is the best. It'll produce the smartest kids. And I looked at it, and I mean, I loved everything about it. It just didn't fit for our family. And we tried it out for a couple months, and I kind of went back to my first impression, which was, you know what, I know BJU Press. I went to a small Christian school that used it when I was growing up, so it was familiar, but it had absolutely everything I was looking for my kids. And so I wasn't about to reinvent the wheel. I have loved it, so we've stuck with it.
So you started in kindergarten, and then what are you at now for 15-year-old?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we've been doing it for 10 years.
Okay, so she's doing ninth grade?
She's in ninth grade, finishing up. Mm-hmm.
So are you starting at the kindergarten level, that was one of your fears. I could teach kindergarten, but now you're teaching things in ninth grade.
Yes.
How have you been able to work your way from something simple like kindergarten, which really isn't simple,
which is not,
ninth grade materials? How have you been able to make that transition year by year?
A lot of it has just been so gradual, and because again, she was an only child, so we were working our way through it together. And the teachers' editions, I did parent led the whole way. They helped walk me through what we needed to do, what we needed each day. I had a schedule, I had a plan. And then I was actually really kind of against the video classes. Even after I became a consultant, I didn't necessarily have a problem with other people wanted to use them, but, I was going to teach my kids. That's homeschooling. And I was at a convention working with Mrs. Walker, and she just, my dog, sorry. She was so encouraging that she, the way she explained their role, and as the distance learning teachers, she used the example of Aaron and her holding up Moses's arms and saying that's what the distance learning classes was this assistance, that it was holding up the tired arms of the moms. And it was that illustration, and looking at it that way, it was like, you know what, it's not abdicating anything. I'm right here. I'm answering her questions. And the more I started thinking about it, my husband's a pastor, I'm homeschooling her. She doesn't get a lot of other people in her life, teaching and giving input. And the teachers that she's had have been absolutely incredible. And so we started in 8th grade last year with math and science, because those are definitely not my strong points. So Mr. Harmon and Mrs. Gillenwater were my heroes last year because they took that off my plate. And she's very much an auditory learner. So having someone be able to talk through the entire lesson and give her more attention in that way than I was able to do with 3 little ones running around, her understanding, everything just exploded for her. And it's been the best switch that we could make. So I'm a big fan now.
See, and it's so funny because you said the same here all the time, which is you're not really homeschooling your child if you're using video courses. And maybe you can give us an example of how that, obviously you just mentioned that, how that is not true, because even though they're watching and listening to a teacher teach those subject areas, how are you still homeschooling? How do you facilitate that? What is your involvement in that?
Really, a lot of it we do labs together. She's in physical science, so I'm her lab partner, which is great. I'm, getting to learn stuff that I don't remember from school, going through, she watches the videos for English, but, it's hard to have a video teacher proofread your papers. So I get to go through that. We review parts of speech, grammar. I'm here to answer questions if she needs me. I'm right in the room with her while she's watching the videos. The only one I really can't help her with is French, but Mrs. Anderson is wonderful, so she's learning so much, but I get to listen in on those. And, it's been a good switch for us, especially her going into high school. She's been able to become a little more independent and be a little more responsible. So some of it's shifted from my looking over her shoulder and making sure she's getting everything done to her shifting that responsibility and taking it on herself. And that in and of itself has been a great teaching opportunity. It's time management. So we're kind of moving to life lessons in a sense. And we still do Bible together. So.
And you're also able to go which lessons when and then also interact with the grading.
Yeah. I lay out we have the video lesson guides that we follow, but I can say, she's got 3 papers due in 3 different classes. Let's combine, we did that for one of her Bible papers was very similar to one of the papers she needed to do in English. Okay, we're going to combine those. You don't need to do both. We'll get the same, we'll just grade it for both classes. So there's still a lot that I feel like I have control over in terms of the content, the amount of work she's doing. If I know she's got a big week coming up, she's in an orchestra, she's got a performance, we're going to ease up on some of the assignments.
It's allergy season here, is it?
It is.
I apologize.
It is bright yellow outside.
Cough dropping. I think that's a wonderful testimony to being in tune to your child, what your child needs, when your child needs it, and being flexible. We have in our minds what we think we want to do, and as we homeschool and go through life, God goes, hey, let's try this a different way. Maybe there's an avenue you can take it. And like you said, she was blossoming and blooming, and that was probably an additional blessing you weren't expecting was how well she did. So praise the Lord for that. Yeah. Well, speaking about being flexible, I know that one of the things that you like to share with your customers when you talk with them, and also other homeschooling moms, is that our schedules and being flexible is very important. And I think for people who are new to homeschooling, who are in the middle of this situation right now, who are not homeschooling the way they're used to, or really living life the way we used to back in the old days of last month. Being flexible is super important, and scheduling is important. I know you've shared with me some things the Lord has taught you in the last little bit, so I thought maybe you could spend a couple minutes just sharing and encouraging us about that, and then we'll just talk on one more thing, and then we'll let folks go. So I'll let you go ahead and talk about that.
Well, I hear a lot, especially right now, you've got to keep those kids on a schedule. And that's usually one thing I do encourage parents to do is have a schedule. My kids have heard me say it. My oldest 2 can recite it when I say it, but those who fail to plan to fail. And, we have a routine, we have a schedule in our house. I've got it up. Well, you can't see my calendar, it's behind the computer. But we have a calendar, we have our chores, we have our school day, and it works great. Everybody knows what they're supposed to be doing, but there have been several times in life where life did not go according to my schedule. And like I told you, I'm a bit of a control freak. I plan our school year out a year in advance. When I get my books, I lay out our entire year, our vacations, our holidays, our field trips, and I try and match up, my kindergartners' assignments with my 3rd graders so that we can get to the zoo on the right day for both of them. And we've had miscarriages. We've had complicated pregnancies where I was on bed rest for almost 2 months. my father was diagnosed with cancer last year and passed away after 3 weeks. So things that are big that were not at all part of my plans. In some ways, the plans that we had already established and the routines that we had going were kind of that constant. It was our school days, our schedules were very helpful in kind of keeping things moving. It didn't just fall apart. But, and I had a teacher who told me once that everything needs to be carved in Jell-O, meaning it's not set in stone. Be flexible. And that is something I struggle with big time. But it's especially even now, my oldest is old enough to know a little bit of what's going on, and she hears on the radio, or she's kind of more in tune with current events. My younger three, they haven't had anything canceled. Life isn't very different, but they hear people talking, they hear me and my husband talking, and they're exhibiting signs of maybe concern, or things are just a little different. Sundays are a very big part of our life, and it's not normal. So sometimes it's just learning when to pull back and go, you know what, let's just go outside and play in the backyard. Let's take the dog for a walk. That's all we can do. Let's get out for a little bit. But really focusing on and listening to kind of what they need, what they're scared of. They can't always articulate exactly what's concerning them, but watching them and knowing, there's something heavy going on in our country, and, they're sensing things are different. And seeing that, having a schedule is great, but stepping back and just saying, hey, let's go bake cookies. Let's have ice cream. Let's go, in our backyard and have lemonade. And we don't have to finish school today. It'll be there tomorrow. It's fine. For me, that's a big departure from what I would want to do. I'd just be like, nope, we're just going to keep going. And, they've been really flexible with everything. I'm disappointed that I'm not at the conventions, but they're thrilled that I'm home. So, we're having a great time, and yeah, things are still going very much on schedule, but there have been days that we just kind of said, they're upstairs playing right now. And that's okay.
It is okay. I think that's one of the beautiful things about homeschooling is, like you said, you chose this for your family to have that kind of environment. And yes, you should have some level of structure so that you can accomplish your goals, but you have absolutely every right to make those adjustments. And it could be because we're in a pandemic. It could be because you're not feeling well, or there's a big life event. And it could just be because your child needs some time off and needs a break, or you know what, you want ice cream and you just decided to take a break. So hopefully that'll encourage families that, a lot of times we are considered a big box company, meaning everything comes all included, which it does if you choose to buy it that way. You certainly don't have to. And there are benefits to doing that. But just because everything comes in boxes doesn't mean that you can't schedule out of the box. It doesn't mean that we tell you when to do things, how to do it, how long to do it, and then that there's something that is going to be a consequence if you don't do it the way we suggest. That these are really just tools. And so moms all over the world use parent-led or use video classes the way they want to in their homes. And you can be flexible with them and work with your kids the way you need to. So hopefully that will encourage families not to be concerned. And, it's funny, you had mentioned that people suggested other things to you. And, sometimes suggestions are good. And so we're giving people suggestions as well. Look at things, try to measure that by what your family really needs, and get some good advice. Peer pressure can go both ways. It can be difficult or it can be positive. So having people that have tried things and it's worked for them, it may or may not still work for you. But one of the blessings about being a homework consultant is you guys are using these materials right now with your kids. It took you a while to warm up to the online classes or the video classes. When you were ready to do it and it was a need for you, you were willing to try it, and it was a blessing. So for you as a consultant then, when you're helping other people with their homeschooling journeys, what would be just a good piece of advice for people that are either in the rut of homeschool right now and I don't mean that homeschooling is a rut, but what I mean is in the rut of this homeschooling at home all day situation. Mm-hmm. And also for somebody who's new and thinking about homeschooling, what advice would you give as a consultant and as a mom to those folks?
I think for the moms that are in the middle of it, I mean, this is it's the end of the year. Spring fever, I think, is a real thing, whether you love homeschooling, whether you're struggling through it. I keep seeing, oh, this isolation schooling is not normal. I'm going, yeah, it is. This is kind of what we do. We don't get out much. And that's okay. That's us. That's just our family. We are home a lot during the day. We don't have a lot of outside activities, and that's okay. That's not everybody. But also just wanting to be done and have time to just go play. I would say schedule in breaks, schedule in time off, schedule in a spring break, a fall break, Christmas. Christmas is a busy time. Schedule in those breaks. You need it as a mom. Your kids need it. I know, my first grader, she's, there have been times where she's been just struggling with a concept, and it's like, we're going to just take a day. We're going to take this week off for our spring break. And she comes back and it's like the light bulb went off for her. She just needed to kind of step back and not have to be forced to do it. And the pressure was let off for her. I need to kind of regroup and look at, okay, is this working? Do we need to adjust anything? For new moms, I mean, really the same thing. Take it slow. Don't feel like you have to do everything. Even when you're in it right now, I'm looking at maybe 2 months left of our school year, and it's like, there are parts of me going, we're never going to finish it all. We've got a plan. We generally do finish our books, but don't feel like you have to finish every single project, every single paper, even every single test. You're sitting there with your kids, how they're doing. Sometimes just taking some of that pressure off. Like you said, there's nobody that's going to come after you from BJU Press going, you didn't finish, this assignment. It can look overwhelming, but take some time to get to know it. Take some time to read through it. Don't try and pull it out of the box and jump in. Get to know it and figure out how it'll work with your family. But as you're choosing curriculum, be honest about your family. If you are a very laid back, spontaneous type of person, something that's going to require structure and daily assignments might not be the best fit. If you need a little bit more structure, don't go with an approach that's going to require being outside and playing all the time. I do not like being outside right now. It's allergy central out there, so I'm perfectly happy being in the house. But if you like to get outside every day, there are options for doing that with any curriculum. But BJU Press has so many ways of accommodating every type of learning style, every type of activity. But be honest, because buying a structured curriculum is not going to make you a structured person. You're just going to frustrate yourself and your kids.
That is amazingly great advice. And those are the conversations that we have a lot of times at conventions where people come to the booth and they're asking for, how does this compare, or what do you think, or somebody told me this or that. We usually get down to the heart of, listen, what does your homeschool look like? What are you willing to do? What are you comfortable with? How do your children learn? And we go from there. So that's how we love to see our consultants. We love to see them interacting on those very personal levels. We got to do it today by video, but you can also interact with Veronica and our other consultants by going onto our website, which is homeschoolhelp.com/map, and you can click on a state, look for your state, then find a consultant and an event near you. And Veronica's in Texas, so you can go to hers. You can also find her on Facebook. We've tagged her in this, and you can go find her there as well, and ask her your questions. And for the next day or so on the thread here, if you have questions for her, she'll hop on and answer as well. But it's been neat to see, even in just the 2 interviews we've done so far, how different, even though we have the same goals for homeschooling, generally, how different the homeschooling situations are. That some people are very driven by outside activities, some are not. Some mom and dad both work, some, dad's a pastor, some are single households. But yet, whatever we're doing, we can use the materials to work for our kids and have that compassion to share and encourage other parents. And that's what I love about our company. That's what I love about Homeworks and about our consultants. And really appreciative of you taking the time to do that. So tomorrow on the online party, Veronica is going to be giving a workshop, and her husband's going to be on there as well. So I hope that everyone will sign up and get on there and be encouraged and interact on the threads there as well. So thanks, Veronica, for staying a little longer and chatting. And I'm glad we coordinated our red. Awesome. All right. Thank you. Thanks, everyone, for joining in and for your comments.